month's winner, Thierry Lockhart. I am urging you to practice social distancing to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Avoid large gatherings, and if you have to stand in a line, make sure you are 3 feet apart from the other person. Get vaccinated today, protect yourself, and be responsible.
And I urge you, get vaccinated. It is safe and it is effective. Stop the spread, help the fight, and make the choice that is right. And let us unite and do the thing right. Man and woman, let us join in the fight.
On Friday, August 27th, there'll be thousands of dollars to be won. A lotto jackpot of $84,000. A new home, car, or that college education.
Lotto, you have to be in it to win it.
Next lotto jackpot, $84,000.
Coming up on the VC3 News Update, the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment received a donation of 10 generators. The Planned Parenthood Association in Paul's Avenue has been added to the list of venues that will be administering the Pfizer vaccine to the public, and 2 Vincentians have been accepted from the competitive regional round of Chevening 2021-2022 applications. We'll have these stories and more coming up at 7 p.m. on the VC3 News Update.
I am Hans John, the 2019 Vinci Ragasoka monarch. I took the COVID-19 vaccine, and so should you. Let's be an example to others. Get vaccinated today and help control the spread of COVID-19.
Vaccinate if you want to eliminate the spread of the virus in our place, and do not procrastinate, but rather let us vaccinate. Get vaccinated today.
Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Round Table Talk. Our special guest on this evening's edition is former Prime Minister Sir James Mitchell, who served as Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for 16 years and as a parliamentarian for over 35 years. Welcome to the program, Sir James. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. Delighted to chat with you again.
Okay, I wanted to start the talk on a different note, but I want to ask you first, how have you been doing? How have you been spending your time within the last several months?
Well, I've been doing a lot of writing during the last several months, but right now, I'm in a little bit of pain. I hurt my back. I fell in my own house in the floor, and I was able to get up to the hospital there in the private integrated medical services, and I was able to get my back x-rayed. Nothing broken, but it seems to have awakened all my arthritis. And all the swimming that I used to be doing, swimming 200-300 yards a week, I'm now limited to 50 yards. But otherwise, I have not been doing badly. The most recent thing of interest is that at the Frangie yesterday, we hosted several establishments in Beckway with a seminar for unvaccinated staff. We had, of course, our 2 establishments, Frangipani and Gingerbread. And in the group was the pizzeria. And in the afternoon, we had Sugar Apple, Hotel Shingle, Sugar Reef, and Spring Hotel. So that was our social contribution to the COVID war. We had one lecturer from the Hotel Association and Mr. Matthews from the Ministry of Health. Both were good. And Mr. Matthews really delivered his stuff. And there was a lot of discussion. So we'll see how it goes, because this problem of getting people vaccinated is serious business. And I can talk more about that later. But I'm also working my book. I was glad that you passed in and you saw what I was doing with my assistant typist. I started writing after the general election. I've been working all November right up to July, writing everything longhand. And then we're now transcribing onto the computer. I can send out emails and that kind of stuff, but I can't handle the computer and a whole book. And much more, I throw away a lot of stuff as I go. I have gone through 4 big volumes of paper, 500 pages each. And I write and I throw away a lot of stuff. And I work and work until I get every sentence right, every chapter right, every word in the right place. I am a serious critic of myself, because the written word does not come back. You got to get it right first time. So that has been a rather interesting exercise. It's going to take me a little while before I reach my publishers in London, Macmillan, who did my first book, Beyond the Islands. They probably think I'm dead, but they'll be surprised to see that I have another story, which is not a sequential type of book. It is scattering about my activity all over the world, and in particular, my interaction with presidents and prime ministers since I left office, who all retired like myself, and the discussions we have on world affairs. So that's where I am now. And the next thing I want to do, of course, is to check the entire thing on computer to see all spelling errors, particularly names. Nobody likes to have their names spelled incorrectly. And then after that process goes on in the computer for another month, it has to be printed into hard copy. And I'll sit down leisurely at a big table with it all in front of me, and I'll go through every page. When that's finished, I have some friends overseas who are prepared to do some editing for me. There's a Canadian couple here who have offered to assist, and I have some others in England who are willing to assist. And I hope I will be able to get it to the publishers before the end of the year, November, December. And then they have to go through it. They have to do their own work, including legal work, to make sure that there's nothing libelous in the book. All books have to be checked when you refer to other people. And then, of course, they will assign their own editor. The last time, they assigned different people, because it's not like in the old days where you have one editor who will work with you throughout the book. They assign contracts with different people to check literally on different things. So that's the process I will have to go through if they accept it. And I look forward to having it printed and published by the middle of next year.
Okay, so James, your hands seem to be pretty full there. What was the inspiration behind this particular publication, and what is the difference between previous publications of yours? What makes this one different?
Well, since I was retired, I've written a lot of booklets. You know, I wrote one on the ungovernable, St. Vincent The Grenadines, the ungovernable, which I went through a lot of the incidents and activities in my last term. I have written, of course, I wrote a pamphlet on the Constitution. And of course, there are other things that I wrote already. But the major thing I did was my autobiography, Beyond the Islands, which is hardly available now. Somebody told me recently that there was some left over somewhere, so I intend to lay my hands on them. But nevertheless, it used to be sold on Amazon, and it's no longer available on Amazon. So that's the story with that. But this one is made up of several chapters, 30, 40 chapters on different subjects and different events. So that's where we are.
Okay, great. You mentioned that yesterday you had a seminar for unvaccinated people involved in the tourism sector. Yes. How did that go? And why did you think it was necessary to have such an initiative?
Well, Sabrina is very active in Beckwith, my eldest daughter. She not only does her basketball and runs the hotel, etc., but she coordinated with the other establishments and offered to host a seminar at the Frangipani. And we had all this unvaccinated staff. Not all of them came from our hotel and Frangipani and Gingerbread, and from the pizzeria. We had the pizzeria in the morning, and in the evening we had Sugar Apple, Sugar Reef, and Spring Hotel. Some of it was very interesting. I would say the expert from the Ministry of Health, Mr. Matthews, did a fantastic job. And I think he cleared up a lot of misunderstandings. And since then, I have heard a couple of people saying that they think they'll get vaccinated now because the problem is still there. But what I find, though, it is amazing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is that people actually working in the tourist industry don't care about the businesses. They have a selfish attitude about themselves. I'm talking about the people who don't want to get vaccinated. And then, of course, there are those people who have fixed salaries and quite happy to draw their salary, but they're not concerned about the economy, and they don't want to accept that COVID is killing St. Vincent and the Grenadines and other parts of the world. They're not interested in the statistic that over 5 billion people have been vaccinated, and the number keeps rising. I keep following it. And they go after the rubbish that they get on the cell phone and saying that they don't trust science. But what produced the cell phone but science? Yeah. So there are a lot of unfortunate misunderstandings that we have to clear up, and St. Vincent is at the bottom of the pile with regard to being vaccinated, and we have to get it done. And this matter is not political, because if even the government changes, COVID is not going away.
Okay,
that's the way I see it.
So James,
so we have to work. We have to
continue. Finish your point.
We have to work together to beat this COVID.
Okay, great. We'll take our first break and come back to some more current issues. Back in just a moment.
All right.
News update. The Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment received a donation of 10 generators. The planned Parenthood Association in Paul's Avenue has been added to the list of venues that will be administering the Pfizer vaccine to the public, and 2 Vincentians have been accepted from the competitive regional round of Chevening 2021-2022 applications. We'll have these stories and more coming up at 7 p.m. on the VC3 News Update.
I am King of the Band's winner, Thierry Lockhart. I am urging you to practice social distancing to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Avoid large gatherings, and if you have to stand in a line, make sure you are 3 feet apart from the other person. Get vaccinated today, protect yourself, and be responsible.
And I urge you, get vaccinated. It is safe and it is effective. Stop the spread, help the fight, and make the choice that is right. And let us unite and do the thing right. Man and woman, let us join in the fight.
On Friday, August 27th, there'll be thousands of dollars to be won. A lotto jackpot of $84,000. A new home, car, or that college education.
Lotto, you have to be in it to win it.
Next lotto jackpot, $84,000.
I am Hans John, the 2019 Vincent The Grenadines. I took the COVID-19 vaccine, and so should you. Let's be an example to others. Get vaccinated today and help control the spread of COVID-19.
Vaccinate if you want to eliminate the spread of the virus in our place, and do not procrastinate, but rather let us vaccinate. Get vaccinated today.
Welcome back. Sir James, I'm pretty sure that you know that there are some very politically charged moments in our country at this moment. Tell us, what are your views on the political climate that exists in St. Vincent and the Grenadines at this moment?
Well, Teresa, we have 2 challenges issues. The economy and the virus. These 2 issues overlap, but they are quite distinct in terms of what is required to deal with them. I think the government has been trying, but there's a lot more to be done in terms of communicating with the people. One can easily say what ought to have been done, but we'll get nowhere with ought. I never, as a politician, bothered with that word ought. There's no such thing. You get what you negotiate, you get what you work for, and you plan and see how things will work out. Looking now at the scene in St. Vincent, there are lots of issues that are hanging over from the past. And those issues require a lot of careful analysis, not just by the politicians, but by people. Let me say, to those who say they don't want to get vaccinated, I ask them if they care about the economy and what impact it has on you and what impact it has on the poor people in the country. A friend who grows various vegetables in St. Vincent came down with his whole crop of cucumbers to Beckwith. He was able to sell some for $3 a pound. But he had more left over than he was able to sell. And then he had to rush back to catch the boat. So he went back to the first buyer and asked them if they'll take some more. They said, but you know, things are slow. I don't think I need any more. He said, you think you can take them for $1 a pound? Now, where are we going with that kind of economy? It is hitting the farmers. When you say you don't want to get vaccinated, you're hurting the rest of the society. This business of saying, okay, let other people do the job, I'll be all right. But look at us, what is happening around us in the Caribbean. Read the figures. You want to tell me that Dominica is now having a spike again because of the new variant of the COVID vaccine. They call it Delta. And in Martinique, almost 100 people dying, and some dead already. The number of people dying per week in the area around us is ridiculous. We are lucky that we have only had 12 deaths, but we have to understand that COVID is not going away. Teresa, I'll give you a little story of when I was at the Imperial College of Tropical Agriculture. The site became the Imperial College, the UWI St. Augustine campus. One of these lessons, one of the subjects we were studying was entomology, dealing with insects. And I got fed up of the lecturer telling us how to control these insects. So I blurted out one day. I said, so you keep telling us how to control these insects. What you hiding from us? Why you don't tell us how to get rid of them? He said, young man, insects will inherit the earth. If people think COVID is going away, COVID will be here after you. If you don't take the vaccines that are available to children, remember smallpox and those other diseases are still out there, you know. When I went to Africa on my mission in the Gambia, I had to get vaccinated for yellow fever. There's no yellow fever in St. Vincent. But if you go to an area where there is yellow fever, you're foolish not to take the vaccine. So I have no problem with what they say, human rights. Go right ahead. But is that word not being abused? If you listen to the news of what is happening in Afghanistan today, how women are being beaten for wearing jeans, how people are being tortured, how people are being hungered out, and millions of people, because of human rights abuses, want to leave their country. So it's a matter of scale. So how much attention can we get of the world when we are talking human rights? As I say, everybody is entitled to their opinion, and I don't intend to interfere with that. But certainly, we should be realistic and not be waiting for COVID to come to us, to our family, our friends, our parents and grandparents. I had my 2 AstraZenecas already, and the only reason why I have yet taken my top up with the Pfizer is because my back was hurting. But as soon as I feel better, I am taking my 3rd vaccine. And all of those people who trust my opinion, I would invite them to rethink your position and go and get that vaccine. Are we waiting in St. Vincent to have 100 deaths like St. Lucia? Are we waiting to have a few hundred deaths and thousands of people a month being infected in Martinique? Those countries are not far away. It is not a question of scaremongering. That is a serious problem we have. And it is not just a question of St. Vincent dealing with it, you know. It's every Vincentian to deal with it. And I repeat what I've said before, this matter should not be used as any political tool, any political argument, because if you change government, COVID is still there. COVID will still be there for a long time. We might go through several elections and COVID's still around until such time as we do not give that virus a place to live. And where it lives is in human body. I've told people simply, you don't get termites in a house until you build it, you know. But you have to be controlling those termites all the time. And we have got to be working with every tested method at our disposal to get rid of it. I would like to ask those who want to be stubbornly saying that they will remain unvaccinated. I would like to ask them, what is the alternative for killing the virus? Okay, vaccination is no good. What is the other thing to deal with it? Do you think COVID doesn't exist? It exists, but I don't want vaccine? What kind of logic is that? Tell me, or tell other Vincentian, tell every politician, what is the solution other than the vaccine? The vaccine is the only thing that we have. All this nonsense about it came too quickly. Come on. Science didn't begin yesterday. Vaccines were started by French scientists over a century ago. And we have found that the only way to deal with certain diseases is with a vaccine. Perhaps one day they might produce a pill. And people, this other argument, you don't know what is in the vaccine. How many people, honestly, when they get medication, take that sheet of paper inside the box with the medicines and read it to see what's in it? Why suddenly you want to know what's in it? How you mean? It's a vaccine. And it is not something created. You're using the forces of nature to help you against the forces of nature. And we need to just sit back, look at it soberly, and think about it. And don't wait until we have hundreds and thousands of Vincentians dying. It is inevitable if we don't stop the circulation of the virus in St. Vincent, there will be death of loved ones.
Okay, it's a
I
good
can't say no.
note. Yes, Sir James, a good note to take our second break and come back. We could continue this discussion. Back in a moment.
Friday, August 27th, there'll be thousands of dollars to be won. A lotto jackpot of $84,000. A new home, car, or that college education.
Lotto, you have to be in it to win it.
Next lotto jackpot, $84,000.
Coming up on the VC3 News Update, the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment received a donation of 10 generators. The Planned Parenthood Association in Pulse Avenue has been added to the list of venues that will be administering the Pfizer vaccine to the public, and 2 Vincentians have been accepted from the competitive regional round of Chevening 2021-2022 applications. We'll have these stories and more coming up at 7 p.m. on the VC3 News Update.
Welcome back. Just before we took our last break there, Sir James was really making a case for vaccination, COVID-19 vaccines. Sir James, would you say that the issue of COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines has in fact become a political one?
I can't say that. It is affecting everybody. So anything that affects everybody is political in this country. So whether it's divisive or not, I do not even want to think about that.
Okay, thank you for that. Want to ask you a quick question. What would you say was your greatest achievement as Prime Minister of this country?
Well, I'm still alive, you know. So I have more things to do. But I leave that for the public to judge. I can only mention a few things that I did and a few things that I succeeded with. Everybody talks about the land reform, but in general, I think I did the biggest social transformation in the history of this country. There are no longer any big estates. Every one that came on the market, I bought. A lot of people they know about Orange Hill, but they don't know about the Balcom Estates. And how many people living in Brighton and Diamond know that I single-handedly negotiated buying Diamond from the Punnets. How many students at the community college know that I negotiated personally? People don't like you to use this word, but Starkey John is alive. He is another I. It's Starkey and I who negotiated the purchase of the lands for the A-level college, community college. And we came to an amicable settlement. Starkey is alive. He could talk about that still. I met some students the other day that I didn't even know that there's a plaque on the wall with my name. All that's part of their education revolution for you. Then you take places like Buckerman. I'm the one personally that visited Mr. Ponette in his house, not far, going in the Vermont Valley, and purchased the Buckerman area. Mainly, it was 90 acres, mainly for the Rastas. While we did other lands elsewhere and gave people 3 acres or 5 acres, I felt that 3/4 of an acre would be enough for somebody. I personally, again, it's a matter of history, but a lot of this I have written already, and it'll be published again. I personally negotiated with Mr. Catchman the purchase of Mountain and Peter's Hope. How many people in Layou and Marley know that? Or want to know or care about our history? And I was the one with my planning team and with the assistance of our ministers of communication, Jerry Scott, and Glenn Short. We put the road inland so as to save the area at Mount Wayne for hotel development. And I was able to get the European Union to accept that proposal and help us with the funding. And the British helped us to prepare the project. Those are some of the things that we did, also the purchase of Otley Hall. So we did a lot in every field: education, health, infrastructure, etc. But I want to tell you, one thing that I have no apology for is the Otley Hall project. Not one iota of apology. It was a good project. It was aimed to get St. Vincent making money out of the sea rather than out of the mountains. It was a question of diversification, and it was, for me, you talk about accomplishment, it was a great accomplishment for me to beat 9 Caribbean judges. I went before one judge who threw it out, then I went to the Court of Appeal, they threw it out, we forwarded it back to original judge, another judge heard it, rejected it, and I went to the appeal court of the Eastern Caribbean again, Detroit, and I got my judgment in England. That project, that inquisition, started with a definition to examine the failed Otley Hall project. But did any judge go down to Otley Hall and see that the thing was making more money that time than the banana industry? Did everyone notice, and I still have the documents, where government was advertising in the Ins and Out magazine and in Compass newspaper, advertising work in Otley Hall, where you had to book 2 months in advance to get service and to pay a minimum of 107,000 EC dollars before you could move in your boat. Plus all the other boats were earning, were delivering revenue. Where did anybody investigate where all the equipment that was down there to service boats, where did the equipment go? Where did all the stuff we bought for building the small hotel, where did that all go? Where are the 33 people that we got training in Italy? They're all scattered and making a good living with the training that we got for them. And what was my reward? I am glad that I have on record, I defeated 9 Caribbean judges. And Teresa, it's 2 words that the taxpayers spent millions of dollars on, you know. 2 words in the report written by the commissioner. Roe had a sentence. The information so far that has not been contested. That word, the case fell apart on that word so far, you know. And I am $540,000 poorer for it. I got some payment, but I did not get everything paid. As a matter of fact, the government even amended legislation to say that I would be entitled, or anybody with a commission of inquiry would not be entitled to costs. If, you know, even if they want, those things are still on the books. In Swindon alone, our bill submitted by my daughter Louise was $1,212,000. We had to settle, compromise, and take $851,000. In England, I had to again make a compromise on my costs. There was never any settlement and any care for the traveling expenses around the Caribbean. We had hearings on this matter in St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Dominica, and Antigua. And I had to pay passage for the lawyers. I had to pay passage, their accommodation, etc. I had to pay passages to London. None of those. In London, when we filed those things, they said those are Caribbean expenses. In other words, we paid the bills in the Caribbean, therefore we should get refunded in the Caribbean. But I'm glad. If you want to know accomplishment, Teresa, I am pleased that I cleared my name, my family name, my party name, whether the party care for it or not, and my country name, whether the country care or not.
Okay, seems as though that was and still is very near and dear to your heart. We'll take our final break and come back in a moment.
Band's winner, Thierry Lockhart. I am urging you to practice social distancing to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Avoid large gatherings, and if you have to stand in a line, make sure you are 3 feet apart from the other person. Get vaccinated today, protect yourself, and be responsible.
And I urge you, get vaccinated. It is safe and it is effective. Stop the spread, help the fight, and make the choice that is right. And let us unite and do the thing right. Man and woman, let us join in the fight.
On Friday, August 27th, there'll be thousands of dollars to be won. A lotto jackpot of $84,000. A new home, car, or that college education.
Lotto, you have to be in it to win it.
Next lotto jackpot, $84,000.
Coming up on the VC3 News Update, The Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment received a donation of 10 generators. The planned Parenthood Association in Paul's Avenue has been added to the list of venues that will be administering the Pfizer vaccine to the public, and 2 Vincentians have been accepted from the competitive regional round of Chevening 2021-2022 applications. We'll have these stories and more coming up at 7 p.m. on the VC3 News Update.
I am Hans John, the 2019 Vincent The Grenadines. I took the COVID-19 vaccine, and so should you. Let's be an example to others. Get vaccinated today and help control the spread of COVID-19.
Vaccinate if you want to eliminate the spread of the virus in our place, and do not procrastinate, but rather let us vaccinate. Get vaccinated today.
Coming up on the VC3 News Update, the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment received a donation of 10 generators. The planned Parenthood Association in Paul's Avenue has been added to the list of venues that will be administering the Pfizer vaccine to the public, and 2 Vincentians have been accepted from the competitive regional round of Chevening 2021-2022 applications. We'll have these stories and more coming up at 7 p.m. on the VC3 News Update.
So you're ready to resume? Final segment, and just to remind you that our very special guest on Roundtable Talk is former Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Sir James Mitchell, who is joining us and talking to us from the beautiful island of Bequia. So James, you know that you posted a letter to the local press last week, and that has made the rounds. Can you give us some more details about that letter and what caused you to send it out to the media?
What? My letter?
Yes.
Oh, very simple. There was a statement by the editor of Searchlight. Well, I liked her letter, and I wrote and I told her, and she's very cooperative about anything that I offer, I send to her. She's one of the admirers of my first book, my book Beyond the Islands. We get along very well. But she wrote a sentence to say that the roadblock revolution, so-called, is what brought down my government. And I think I have written about this thing before, but people don't read, you know. In my books, in my pamphlet or booklet, St. Vincent the Grenadines Young Governor, it's all there. But people have their own myths they want to hold on to. So that's why I wrote that piece.
Okay, and you are maintaining that the roadblock had nothing to do with your exit from political life, so to say. I think your mic is muted. We're not hearing. There you go.
You hearing me now?
Yes, we are.
Yes. First of all, I did not want to be in politics after the age of 70. I went in when I was 35. I did 35 years service. I had covered every gun. I had 10 years alone in opposition. fighting for the rights of this country. And let me give you one. Let me go back a bit. When the teachers had their November march, that was tear gassed. I was the only one. I was the sole opposition member in Parliament. I went in front of the police station to protest. A young policeman came out to me and said, "Sir, you must move on." I said, "What are you talking about, move on?" I said, "I'm not moving. You have two trade union leaders inside there, and I want to know what's going on about them." This was in the evening, you know, about 5:45 or something like that. And so he went back inside. And he came out again. And he said, "Sir, I will have to charge, I'll have to charge you for loitering." I said, "Well, let me tell you something. You too junior to arrest me for loitering. Go and tell those superior fellas inside there, come out and charge me for loitering. I am the Honorable James Fitzallen Mitchell, and anyway I stand up in this country cannot be deemed to be loitering. But I'm quite ready to join the others in jail for loitering." They then took them to a back door and moved them to some other part, both Yvonne Gibson and Mike Brown. So I've done my struggles. And I, unlike a lot of other leaders, wanted to see succession in my time. In other words, I wanted to make sure that while I was Prime Minister, I retired and gave somebody else a chance. Perhaps that was a monumental mistake. Then we had won all the seats, but then we lost South Windward through personal affairs that blew up. And that is when Prime Minister now Gonsalves and Vincent Beach got together and shared out the two constituencies, which we have never captured again. North Central Windward and South Windward. Then we lost Central Leeward, again by certain personal affairs, dealing with nurses. And I knew then, the night that happened, I'd lost the vote of the nurses and the women. We had a one-seat majority. But before that, I told the convention, I am not running again. And perhaps I'm the only politician in the Caribbean who says he ain't running again, that didn't run again. Follow? I cared for our country. And what matters to me was peace. After the chaos in my constituency, Union Island, with the so-called Union Island uprising, which I offered to settle in a swimsuit, and the Barbados troops were coming in, I was not prepared to bring in any foreign troops to deal with the disloyalty in the police or in the public service. A lot of the public service went for the idea that they're getting 30% salary increase. Those are the things before me. Then we had a When I formed government, Reza and your listeners, in 1994, when we went to Parliament with our people, it was the first day.
Your hand is covering your mic.
It was the first day. You hear me?
Yes, we are.
It was the first day for all my men in Parliament. It was the first day of my 19th year. I had already been Premier and running a country for 2.5 years as head of the government. As a young man, I was Minister of Trade, Agriculture, Labor and Tourism. And I was the one that negotiated with Colin Tennant, with PSV, Palm Island, concession, Sunset Shores, all of that. I had a record, and the people knew what I stood for with my main policy of land reform. Then I find myself with a one-seat majority, with having disputes about international airport. I was prepared to accept the advice of the international consultants. I had already, with an estimate around 60 million, and I had already raised 39 million. And I would like to invite Vincent to get experts to do a little calculation for them and to see what is it that Argyle is doing today that could not be done with an extended honest fair.
Yes, so James, we lost you there very briefly, but we got the point. There are a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about today. Grand Beach Accord. I wanted to talk to you also. Maybe before we end this program, we can talk about how you feel about the current situation, the violence that from the recent protests, etc., and the way forward. The microphone, we're not hearing you. We're not hearing you, Sir James. Okay, seems as though we have lost Sir James there for a moment. I don't know if it has to do with the Wi-Fi or internet service at the moment, but we have definitely lost him. We've come to the end of the program, so I guess that's it for today, this week's edition of Roundtable Talk. So sorry we couldn't hear the response to that last question, but I'm sure there will be some other opportunity to bring back Sir James, because we really have quite a lot to talk about and we didn't quite get into the meat of things. But so glad you could join us, and special thanks to Sir James for him taking the time to be with us on this evening's edition of Roundtable Talk. Good evening and have a very pleasant Wednesday evening.